it really is about dreaming, right? It is about carving out what that looks like for you and dreaming big, like what you really want out of life.
If you can see it, you can achieve it. But if we can't see it, then anything will do, right? And I think that's why a lot of people stay asleep at the wheel of their own life.
If we spend all our time consumed with where we are, we'll never be able to get to that preferred or desired future.
Without a dream, without a vision of where I'm going, I'm just existing. I'm just waking up every day and I'm taking up energy and space and time, but I'm not moving towards anything meaningful or anything important.
Thanks for joining us today on the Living Richly podcast. Super excited today to be talking about the power of vision.
Yeah, what a great topic.
An exciting topic. I'm super passionate about this one, and I don't feel like we've talked about it before, the four of us.
Not as a dedicated,
not.
I think we've referenced it so many times in other conversations, but we've never dedicated an entire episode to the power of vision.
Yeah, so excited to get going. So I'm gonna throw us all a question to start. Okay. Are you guys ready?
I think so. All right, ready. We're bracing ourselves.
Yeah, I think I just want to start with, for each of us, because we haven't really talked about it, if we can share a key moment, a defining moment where you sort of realize the importance of personal vision.
Great question.
That is a great question. For me, I know one of those initial moments where I realized the importance of having a personal vision would have been right when I left the church world back in 2012. All of a sudden, everything up to that point was evolved around, and you know this, evolved around the church, revolved around what I was doing there. My whole, the idea of a personal vision, it was all about what's God's vision.
Right.
What was, what is, and it was this external source. And all of a sudden in that moment, my identity was gone. I was completely lost and kind of without any kind of direction.
There was no plot.
There was no story.
Right.
Yeah, there's no plot. And so having that, the first crafting, and I chuckle because I have it written down, but that first crafting of a personal vision, it helped start me on the path of coaching. It helped start me on the path of realizing that my story's not done. It helped me to begin to say, okay, what does the next chapter look like?
Wow.
I've shaped that certainly a lot more. And most recently, it's certainly been a lot of change to that. But that would have been a moment where, had I not taken the moment to say, okay, what is my vision, the vision for me in my life in that moment, I don't know if I ever would have been able to move forward to where I am today.
Yeah, that's powerful. Wow.
Very powerful.
Wow.
How about you guys?
For me, I think it would definitely be winter 2022 into the spring. Was going through a lot of personal changes, lots of personal challenges. And it seems like, and I've talked about this, the Great Awakening, that really was a period of awakening for me, where all of a sudden I'd lived most of my life according to the shoulds, musts, and have-tos of everybody else. You call it, I love the language you use around this, my supposed life. Again, like you, they had said that this is how I'm supposed to. I wish I knew. We said this before, but who the hell are they, and why do they hold so much power in our lives? And for the first time, started to ask myself those questions about, what does living my best life look like for me? What actually makes me happy? What are the things that fill my cup? And very well versed in helping organizations come up with a vision and a direction, but never had that for my own life. And that whole time period, that process would lead to the emergence of the quadrant model, which was my own journey of discovering what really mattered to me and building a life around that. And what I can tell you is the difference that has made. I tell people now, we were just recently with a business leader that we haven't seen in some time, and she made the comment, she goes, Eric, you look different. Like, there's something about you that's really different. And to be able to say, I have never felt more confident and happy in my own skin, that's the power of having a personal dream, direction, vision, and pursuing it. It's not pursuing it perfectly, but man, does it ever give you focus. Right?
I love that. I totally love that. What about for you, Wendy?
Yeah, I think for me, so just not feeling and not knowing that I wasn't in the right place. So probably back 2015, my coming to Jesus moment, not just
he's not coming. Jesus is not available.
He's not available today. But knowing that I was lying awake at night with all of those thoughts that were keeping me awake, not in the right place with my own health and wellness, but also not doing the right work. And it's ironic that you just mentioned, Eric, you could create personal visions for leadership teams and all of the people that you're coaching, because I did the exact same thing in an HR capacity, but yet I couldn't figure out or craft where the hell am I going? And so knowing that my personal vision was going to help me create that roadmap, that North Star to what was going to help drive me down the path that I'm in right now today, on creating impact, but also doing what I'm supposed to do and not what they think I should be doing.
Right.
They're everywhere. Yeah.
They're everywhere.
They are everywhere.
You talk about it's like, again, it's we've used the language of, again, living according to other people's expectations, almost like instead of writing your own story, which is what the part of, I think, the beauty and the mystery of the human experience is the ability to write our own epic story, right? To decide and to pursue it and to write it. Most of us live as extras in somebody else's story because we never figure it out.
What's interesting, so for me, my moment is actually tied to that a little bit. And I don't know, you might remember this, but shortly after Eric and I met, I was looking for something in one of my journals. So I flipped through and I was trying to find something specific. But what I found, so this was in 2022, is I found a list and it started with in 2021. Wow. And I write down, I believe in the power of like pen to paper, right? Yeah. So I write down I am statements for the next year, not I will, but I am. And so there's a list of like, I don't know, 8 things. And there's one thing on that list that in 2022, I didn't get to. Everything else had come true. And they were big things. Like the first one for me was I'm going to be in a loving, romantic relationship with a really kind man. That one didn't
When is
happen.
that? When is that happening?
Wait a second.
But Eric will do.
Steve, can you fix that in post editing?
He's right here. But yeah, and so what's interesting is we met in 2022, but we actually started talking in 2021. So I was like, wow, that's insane. The next one was, I'm going to get this specific promotion. I'm going to make this much money and this will be my bonus. To the T, the number on the paper was what I was earning. It was crazy.
Wow.
I had some for my kids, which I won't share because they're private, those 2. And the last one was, you're going to learn like a new craft, something new that's going to take your career path down a different road.
And here you are sitting on.
You talk about the power.
My God. So
mind-blowing.
I remember you telling me that, like us talking about that. And it reminds me of back in the days, Rob, you'll remember this, when I first, actually, I told you the story about it because you would be the first coach I bring onto my team. I brought onto my team in 2012. I had launched my first coaching business, Breakthrough Coach, in 2011. And I remember coming back from a week's worth of training in the US just to get my business started. And I literally, when I got home, spent the next 2 or 3 days in my dining room at the time, that was my office, with my laptop mapping out where was this fledgling business going. And I had all these goals I'd written down, the really visional goals, like vision goals about what I would see, what it would become. And then I remember filing that away and just getting to work. And then 5 years later, I remember I pulled it out and I said, dude, look at this. And like the vast majority of the things that I had written down at that time, it's not like I was taking this out of my pocket every day and looking at it. I literally like envisioned it, filed it away and went to work. And I think that's the power of vision. It sets you on a course. It sets you on a track. And I think, again, you talk about the universe aligning and conspiring with you when you pursue that amazing thing.
Yeah, I think for the way I look at it is it's like you're programming your subconscious, right? And it's just when you write it down, it's an intent. Yeah, you're putting something out into the universe with intent. I never looked at it again after I wrote it down. Yeah. Was I working towards those? Yeah, for sure. Like that, I was taking action against that. And actually, that's probably a great segue to let's talk about goals, objectives versus vision, because I think a lot of people can get stuck at like, what's the difference between a goal versus vision? How do they play together?
Because it is a cloudy space, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of fog there. Is when people talk about vision, they often are actually talking about goals, or they're talking about whatever bucket list, all of this different stuff. They do mix up that language. Certainly in our work with organizations, when we're doing that, we talk about vision as a desired future, a preferred future, right? It is something that we are going towards. I look at it, for me, the way I kind of separate these out is your goals are those steps. They're the gas stations along the journey, right? They're the places where we stop and we're making kind of those checking in. How are we doing? Are we still going in the right direction? Do we need to alter our course? Whatever. That's what goals are. There are those steps along the way. The bucket list is, what do I want to experience while I'm on the journey?
Yeah,
while I'm going in that direction. What are the things that I want to have and happen in those moments? And our vision oftentimes can change over time.
Yes.
Right?
Totally. It evolves, doesn't it? It evolves, yeah.
It evolves, it grows. And so that's why it's important to have goals, and even that bucket, important to have those checkpoints along the journey to make sure that we're still on the right path.
Right. They become a way to gauge your progress, to gauge, are we still on track? But I couldn't agree more. Vision is, where do I see myself 5 years from now? Where do I see myself 10 years from now? You're kind of envisioning a future version of yourself. And I think then the goals, once you get clear on that, which a lot of people aren't, it's like a pilot taking off from Ottawa with no clear destination. Well, if you have no clear destination, one, you're going to waste a lot of fuel, you're going to waste a lot of energy, and you might not like where you end up, right? You might end up landing in Winnipeg, for Christ's sake, like, right? Who wants to go to Winnipeg? For our Winnipeg listeners, I'm sorry. But you need to have that end game, like, where am I going? And then the goals actually reverse engineer it then. If this is where I envision myself 5 to 10 years from now, then what are the things I need to do, the steps I need to take, the goals I need to set, the actions I need to embark on in order to make sure I get there. So I love that explanation.
Yeah.
I think it's important to know, and I don't know if it was you or you who just mentioned.
Well, it depends on how intelligent it was.
Yeah, if it was really intelligent, it was me.
Well, then.
It was actually me.
Yeah, she's right.
But when people think of vision, and one of you just mentioned that might change. And a lot of people experience discouragement because they feel like they have in their mind this set map as to how the vision is supposed to be without allowing any detours. So to the driving point, the gas station, which I don't know why you didn't mention evaluating and getting snacks at the gas station when you're stopping.
Yeah, he missed that.
Very
he missed an important point.
Yeah.
Snacks are key.
They are key.
But you might have road closures along the way. You might have traffic along the way. Your gas station might be closed. You might not have the right snacks at the gas station.
It's all about the snacks.
It's all about the snacks.
So all that to say, sometimes people give up on their vision and they get very discouraged. And then they say, this isn't working, because they haven't allowed that flexibility to be able to make those detours when needed.
I couldn't agree more, Wendy. I used to talk about creating a map for your life, right? In terms of where you want to go, where you want to end up. And then I remember driving down the Queensway during LRT construction, East End. I live in the East End, and between Blair Road and Montreal Road, for folks that are listening from Ottawa region, you know exactly what I mean. So westbound section between Montreal Road and Blair, if I had my GPS on for several months because of the work they had done, the highway had literally was still in the same place, but over from where it was originally. Like the lanes were now over further to the left, right? If you're heading west. And so the GPS would record that I'm off the map, that I'm not on the trajectory anymore. And yet the map changes constantly. Our context is changing constantly. Our context is constantly evolving. So I prefer to talk about it. You use the language of North Star. It's about having a compass for your life, a compass that helps you stay on track, a vision of the future, but a compass, even if the path changes, even if the weather changes, even if the snacks aren't up to snuff, I can use this compass to find my way back to where I'm heading.
Yeah. I mean, the goals and objectives are the how, right? And so for people like me who get so stuck on the how, I need how defined.
We need the checklist, and we need to.
Oh my God. Like I need it all, like really, that's just how I'm wired. So to paint the vision without having like clear goals and objectives for me was so hard, because it really is about dreaming, right? It is about carving out what that looks like for you and dreaming big, like what you really want out of life. Like for me, work-life balance, flexibility, not going into an office has always been like, I didn't plan for COVID so we could all work remotely. However,
but thank you. If you did, thank you.
But it has always been like a very top level vision for me. And I continue to map that out. But I think like at the core for me, if I want to get really clear for vision, I kind of want to sink into with you guys how you take that first step forward to start defining your vision. Because when I get stuck on the how, it makes sort of looking at that bigger vision harder. So how? Any tips, tricks? Where do you start when you define dreaming?
I think I'll jump in and just mention values. And that can be a huge kind of overarching, I guess, word or topic, because there's so many different values. So I think to break it down, I know for me, I get overwhelmed because I want to do everything, and then I end up doing nothing. So why are you nodding like
From where I was sitting, you were far too enthusiastic about that.
I know. Eyes wide open.
I just feel like I'm going to pay a price for that later.
I know, understand. I know, understand.
No habla español.
But to go back to the values, what values hold deep in your core? What is really important to you? And I would narrow it down to 3, maybe 5 at the most. But then also, what keeps you awake at night? Right. What are the things that you can't stop thinking about? Because that is usually your internal compass telling you that you're supposed to be doing something maybe that you're not, or whatever the case may be. So I would start with values.
100%.
I love the idea of, again, in order to look into the future, you got to first look inside. Right. Yeah. And it's this idea that it starts here. It starts with who am I? What matters? What are those values? What drives me? All of that. What fires me up? Yeah. The more we take the time to reflect on the internal, we can then say, if that's true, now what is it how do I want to express that into the future? And that's a powerful place to start.
And I would go even beyond the key to our future is on the inside, but it's also found in our past. I think we have most of us have a complicated relationship with our past, where we recently did the episode on learning to forgive yourself. I think we carry regret over mistakes we've made and bad decisions that we made. And so it's often about getting over my past is often how people, or there's terrible pain in our past, right? That we look back on, whether from family of origin or growing up or even into adulthood. It's often about, I want to just leave that behind and move ahead. And yet in our past lies the lessons and the hints about what are the things that have always lit my heart on fire? What are the things that have always been important to me? What are the things that have often risen to the surface? Even if they were, I loved how you say the things you're constantly thinking about. Well, someone might, like some of us, we go into these spirals of negative thinking, and I call it negative meditation, right? We're kind of focused on the wrong things. But even underneath all that, there may be something there that is part of who you are. That's why your mind keeps getting drawn to it. And it's about shifting the focus from a negative bias to a future positive bias. But your past also holds, I think, a lot of keys. And so looking at what are some of the key themes that if I look back in key seasons of my life, what's kind of stayed with me? I think there's fuel for vision now.
One of the things, and all 3 of you, I know I've with different conversations, that this is a practice that the 3 of you do very regularly, and that is write things down. The reflection, the journaling. It's a practice that I know that all 3 of you are embrace fully. And I think that's a starting point for a lot of people when they're trying to figure out a vision is it just takes some time. Just start writing.
Yeah.
Jot down, reflect, get it out of here. get it, pass it through the
lips and the fingertips.
Till it passes through the lips or the fingertips, it isn't real.
Yeah.
So just get it out on. And again, I think there is something powerful about pen and paper to be able to write out these things before, and it becomes clearer as you start to write them out. Maybe speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think it's absolutely critical that you, again, I keep coming back to the words of wisdom from Jim Harrington from when I first met him. This would be years ago. And he said to me that the number one reason most people don't achieve their full potential is because we don't stop often enough, regularly enough to think deeply about what we're doing. And so without a reflective practice of some sort, whether that's meditation, whether it's reflective writing, whether it's journaling, whether it's meaningful, regular conversations with other people on the journey, it's going to look different for different people. Yeah. But unless you have a regular space for reflection, discovering your vision is going to be challenging. Staying on track, even harder if you manage to get it.
Well, and it's the pause, right? Like we're so uncomfortable pausing, right?
I don't know what you mean.
Right? No. None of us are like that. But truly pausing with yourself to do the reflection work, to actually really take time to ask yourself those questions without thinking through a million and other things. I know for me, meditation has become something that I've really committed to recently. Always done it, but now it's like every morning, whether it's 5 minutes, put my headphones on, Eric knows, but or it's like 30 minutes if I get it, great. I don't always have a perfect meditation. There are many mornings where I'm thinking about the grocery list and how I have to go pick up the kid. Like it's harder, but
slowing down is so hard.
Slowing down is so hard, and get present. And again, I'm big on the affirmation side. So like saying things as if they're actually happening. But what do I want? Even sometimes it can be for that day. It could be for the next hour. It's like, I am happy. I'm fulfilled. I am. And just again, programming your subconscious. So I think meditation too sometimes can just be sit with your thoughts, as crazy as they may be when you first start. Do a guided meditation, that can help too, but that can help a little bit.
I think my favorite thing that you just said there was about when you're meditating, how sometimes you're still thinking about your grocery list.
But you are.
But it's true, because I've had so many people tell me, I can't meditate because I can't focus, or I'll do it for
That's such a great voice. Rob just did that in the last episode, and I'm
now I know where I got it from.
That's where you got it from.
That's where I got it from. That's the voice the voice that Wendy uses with me when I do something stupid, which is on a regular basis.
But a lot of people get so frustrated, and I'll just speak from a female lens around the notion of, I'm going to do something, but if I don't do it right, then I'm not doing it because I can't do it right. So the fact that you've embraced meditation, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's probably like this, everything's flowing. And the other times it's I left the laundry in the washing machine. So now I need to rerun the cycle again because now the mildew's sitting in, and I got to get this at the grocery store. Yeah. But I love that so much because it's such... I think it gives people permission that it's okay if it's not going the way it's supposed to go, but you keep doing it.
You keep doing it. Yeah. I mean, I
love that.
Yeah. My headspace at the beginning was like, I'm failing at meditation because that's my language. I'm failing.
Yes.
And it's
I can add that is not a uniquely female problem.
Sure.
I think how many times I've tried, and meditation is one very important practice for me as well, but it's one that I have a complicated relationship with for that very reason. But recently read Elizabeth Lesser's book, Cassandra Speaks, where she quotes Pema Chodron, who was a North American business leader who totally converted to the Buddhist philosophy and now is a full-on Buddhist monk. And she has been on the Oprah show in Oprah's heyday. I mean, she is one of the most valued resources when it comes to understanding meditation. And she uses the notion of meditation. It's understanding that you are the sky and the rest is just weather. You are the sky, the rest is just weather. That. She says, imagine yourself taking off. Let's go back to the plane analogy. You're taking off and it's overcast and it's bad weather on the ground. Eventually, when you rise above those clouds, the sun breaks through. You're above the weather now, looking down on it. That's what meditation allows us to do, is to slow down and gain perspective. And I think whether it's gaining perspective on what is my life about and what's important to me and where am I going to, am I on track? Am I living according to my values?
Yeah.
Am I right? I think reflective practice of any kind is absolutely necessary, crucial.
And there's some great tools out there that help you on that journey. You know, you have been doing on the Get To mindset.
Yeah.
Been putting out some great reflective meditation.
Thank you.
We'll link all those.
And,
Yeah.
We'll definitely put a link to that. It's a great way to, with some I am statements and all of that, the affirmations, and having that in the background to help maybe sometimes that's what we need to get out of our own head of the noise, and using that. I know you and I have both, well, all of us actually, and it was something that was introduced. I think, Eric, you first introduced it to me, was the values deck. For using that.
So glad you mentioned
done it even as a couple.
Yeah, we just recently did it as a couple.
Yeah,
It's
so fun.
When we did that as a couple, is to be able to pull that out, and what a power! We were on a road trip when we did it. It was actually a year ago that we did that exercise, and to go back, it'd be interesting for us to do it again now, even just to look at, because those things can shift. But some of these tools, we don't need to figure out vision all alone.
Right.
In fact, it's difficult to do that.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because we did values, like we did the value card, and
did they align?
Like insanely. It was just, we were just like we knew it, but to see it down, it was special.
It was powerful. And like, I think we talk about, let's talk about relationships just for a second and the power of vision there. Yeah. Let's face it, most couples come together initially because of chemistry, attraction, and emotion.
Yep.
Right? That is exciting, and it's part of the process, but it's not enough to go the distance. To go the distance, you need shared vision. You need shared values. Doesn't mean that your values are 100% aligned. Yeah. But we talk about developing a vision. You and I talk about traveling around the world and the things that we want to do together, and business and all of this.
And we started a vision board together as a couple, which I have never done before. So vision for me has always been very in solitude. It has not been. Yeah. And I realized through doing that, I'm like, oh, so much more fun. But it is to be able to share that vision. But I think as a couple, it's important that we talk about it, but to kind of give you a North Star and to have a vision board that we can come back to, a visual cue, because that's what's hard for people, right? Is they talk about vision, but how do you keep it, right? How do you keep it? A vision board's one you can go back to, a journal, but you need cues to be able to come back.
How do you keep it, and then how do you support each other as well?
Yeah.
Where if your values, and it was Ben Bergeron that talked about it in a couple of episodes around, to your point, it's great when you're able to start dating and you chemistry, emotion, all that kind of stuff, but that doesn't last forever unless you're aligned in other ways. So by doing, like the value stack together, if you've got similar values, but maybe some of them are slightly different, how can you support your partner in, like, if one of their values is community, and maybe they want to do a lot of volunteering, how do you support them with that? Knowing you don't know what you don't know. So doing that together just allows you to continue building that foundation of your relationship together.
100%. And whether you're in a relationship right now or you're single doing this on your own, one thing we're really excited about is what's an upcoming resource that's going to be made available through the Living Richly movement called the 15-Day Life Vision Challenge. And this will be a guide and a series of guided exercises over the course of 15 days, resources that will help you ask the right kinds of questions, do the right kind of reflection to help you determine that path forward. So that I just want to put that in there as a plug.
Great. It's another
it's fantastic.
Such a valuable resource for people. Yeah. We talk about living richly. Well, I need a map, or I need let me back that up. I need a compass. We're going to help you build the compass. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found a blog on in the show notes. It was a really good one that allows you it gives you like 10 different softwares where you can actually do a digital vision board. I'm visual, so like I write, but I need to see stuff on a daily basis. I need to be reminded of, like, travel's a big one. Poor Eric gets 1,000. Let's go here every day on Instagram.
Yeah, I don't feel poor on the receiving end of that stuff. Wait, the latest one was like, have you considered Bora Bora? I'm like, let's go.
All right, I want you to sell me on this, because I am not and maybe some of our listeners will be in the same boat.
Yeah.
I have heard, I know the importance of, let me even change the language on that. I hear often people talk about vision boards.
Yeah.
I've never created a vision board in my life. Okay. I've done lots of vision work.
Yeah.
But the idea of when we think of a vision board, here's what immediately comes to mind for me, right? Is a vision board
I know exactly what you're going to say.
You got this piece of paper stuck to the wall and you're cutting out of magazines,
I call it arts and crafts.
Arts and craft, right? And I'm like, it's not me at all, right? So let's talk a little bit about a vision board, because it is a powerful tool that many people will mention when they talk about having a personal vision. It goes to vision board. So help me understand from your perspective what a vision board is.
For me, it's a visual map of my vision. That's all it is. So it's,
I like how that is.
Well, yeah, it's the cues.
Visual map, yeah.
So like I have an old vision. I have had many, and that's the whole vision changes over time. But like I have some where I have a book that is I get to run in the rain, and that is really get to mindset, and that's the foundation of it. And so it's fascinating when you go back to older versions. I do them digitally now, so I'm not cutting anything out, but I am copying and pasting stuff. And it's I love to travel, so putting up just travel random photos to keep it front of mind for me. I think it's just really visually representing what that is. And by also putting pen to paper, though, by putting a book and putting a title on it that says I Get to Run in the Rain by, Kate Volton, like it's on there, it gives it a bit of permanence. It gives it something, and I need that.
You're putting it out into the universe.
Yes,
that's a huge way.
Yeah, and so for me, it's very real. I'm not going to put like $1 million check up. Like that's not how I work. But I do believe.
But if it works for someone,
well, it worked for Jim Carrey.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
And let's face it, the power of visualization. Like in the world of sport, I was just reading a study, and I won't remember exactly where I read it, but I'll try to dig it up for the show notes. Where they were they did an experiment with athletes in the gym training on weights and Nautilus equipment and the rest. And they had the control group, which continued to use the actual equipment. And then the second group just visualized themselves going through the exercises and the moves, each rep, right? They gained 17% muscle mass and never touched a weight. I mean, it's insane. The power of visualization. Again, like it's commonplace in the world of sport now. Like the world of sport came to understand this a long time ago. If you can see it, you can achieve it.
Olivier Jean, he talks about how he had that digital image he created, probably photoshopped
Olympian speed skater that was on the show not long ago. Yeah.
And he photoshopped him standing on the podium in Vancouver.
Right.
And he stood on the podium on Vancouver. Now, you're the scrapbook queen.
Really?
She was. Yeah. Yeah. It was fun. The day we did Marketplace where she sold all her scrapbooking stuff was an eye-opener to me to a part of Wendy that I
Let's just say we probably could have paid for our house in cash. We probably wouldn't have a mortgage. But yes, I have done a lot of vision boards. One of the ones that's most memorable to me, and we're all parents here now, our kids are older, but I did one with my girls once, probably about 5 years ago, around things that they enjoyed, things that they liked, things that they wanted to do, some of our favorite quotes, and we put it all together and we hung it up in the kitchen. And they just loved looking at that and referencing that. So I'm very much a hands-on type person. Also love the digital aspect, which there's so many other tools, but as humans, we are so visual. When I'm coaching a class on the fitness side, I will often say visual is memorable. See the target, hit the target. See the target, hit the target, because that's just how we're wired. So if you can't see your target and you don't have that, visually in front of you, you don't have your compass, your roadmap to go to.
Right.
So having a vision board where you're seeing that every day for you guys crafting one together, I love that. See if I can do that.
Well, you know what I as you're talking about this, I mean, I'm going to geek out for a second here.
Stay on target.
I love you, brother.
On target.
Right? 1977, New Hope, Star Wars, Luke Skywalker at the very end in the trench, right? Flying his X-Wing through the trench, trying to take out the Death Star. And he's got all these reasons to not want to be there. People are trying to take him out, but he stays on target and he wins the day. If you can see it, you can achieve it. But if we can't see it, then anything will do right? And I think that's why a lot of people stay asleep at the wheel of their own life. Without a dream, without a vision of where I'm going, I'm just existing. I'm just waking up every day and I'm taking up energy and space and time, but I'm not moving towards anything meaningful or anything important. And so, like, for anyone doubting the importance of vision is what gets you out of bed in the morning and keeps you on track and becomes, in many ways, again, like that compass, every decision, every potential opportunity, right, gets measured by, does it fit, right? Does this help me move in this direction? And if it doesn't, then it's easy. I don't have to deliberate over it. I don't have to, am I going to miss out on something? No, I've already determined what I want to do. And my vision may evolve and start to include things I hadn't thought of at the beginning. But this is why people feel so lost, I think. They just have no sense of purpose, direction, or destination.
Or they're overwhelmed.
And they're overwhelmed.
Because they just don't know. That's a big obstacle.
It's getting stuck on the how. Well, how am I going to get there?
Right.
Like, what's the point of dreaming? Like, that's ridiculous. I'm never gonna be able to get there. We're taught in society that dreaming it's a dream,
right?
Meaning it's not something you ever achieve. And I'm not saying vision is the same as dream, but a lot of what's in a personal vision is tied to big dreams.
Yeah.
But we really are taught as a society that oh, you're such a dreamer, right? Like they're
like that's a bad thing.
Know?
Right? Like
yes.
And yet, when we're children, it's all we do.
It's all we do.
It's all we do is we dream up these realities. We dream these scenarios, right? We've lost, and we talk about it so often on the show, the importance of embracing the inner child. And the inner child, you don't have to convince a child to dream. You don't have to have their imagination runs rampant, and we've lost that because of all this noise and things that we've just talked about. If we can get back to just give yourself permission to dream.
Yeah. I listen, as a child, you said that growing up, I had two imaginary friends growing up. One of them was Mr. Timber. He was a lumber.
I don't know any of this.
No, you're hearing about it first on the show.
I'm hearing about it for the first time as well.
Mr. Timber, who was a lumberjack, and he and I would spend all kinds of time keeping myself busy. My brother was 2 years older, my sister 5 years older. My parents very busy in their business, so I had lots of time to myself. Mr. Timber was one of them. And then my favorite was the Red Baron. And the Red Baron, I would put on a cap and goggles, and I would put a scarf around my neck, like I was a pilot in World War I, right? And I would literally wait for my family to be gathered in a room of the house, usually in the family room, and I would literally come running in and just throw myself up on the air and belly flop onto the floor of the family room, like I was trying to fly but couldn't any air. But it would always get lots of laughs, and you guys know me, I love to make people laugh. That's been my part. But this whole notion of dreaming,
I'm still in shock. Sorry. I'm Mr. Timber.
I'm not suggesting you make up like these crazy personalities, but there's something, think about the freedom there that I was able to, even as a child, enjoy myself, have fun, even without these external factors. There was something about dreaming and the imagination that is liberating. And I think as adults, we've lost that. We are for the most part, we are in survival mode. We are in fight or flight. We are just dealing with one problem. We're firefighters, right, that are just putting one fire out and dealing with another. But we're not stopping to say, what do I want my life to represent? Where the fuck am I going? And am I okay with where I'm going?
And and let's not leave that thought too quickly, because I think it's an important
the Red
one.
Baron? Do you want me to tell more stories?
I definitely want us to leave the Red Baron. Although I was going to say, here's a challenge, because I really want to see this as a short on Living Richly at some point. Is you coming running into the living room of Kate's?
I think I would hurt myself now if I tried to repeat that stuff.
I want to see it happen.
But is this idea that I am just trying to survive the day, and you want me to think about where I want to be in 5 years. So what do we say to that? How do we encourage people? Because I don't think it's not the either or. Yes, I get that people are focused on survival of the day. They've got their needs, their crisis, whatever they're going in. But if we only stay there and we never give, even if all we can do right now is give 10% towards vision while we're 90% on today. Even that is a significant step away from just being so consumed with where you are that we never take the time. If we spend all our time consumed with where we are, we'll never be able to get to that preferred or desired future.
Well, let's talk then about like what are the things that hold people back? What are the limiting factors that are the resistors, I guess, that hold people back from actually developing this vision for their lives from your perspective? What's stopping people?
Other people's opinions.
Yeah,
and I'll
100%.
tie it right back
Totally agree.
to Mr. Timber and the Red Baron.
See, you're now my favorite. He used to be my favorite. Well, no, you've always been the favorite.
But when
Sorry,
Really?
Rob.
Like,
yeah.
not even a given?
See how quickly I corrected
But I
myself
will
there.
say this: when you were in that phase, you gave zero fucks what anybody thought.
Yep.
You just went and you loved it. You let your imagination go wild.
Yeah.
But now we get so caught up in
Oh, so good.
what are my friends going to think? What's my family going to think? What's everybody else going to think? What does Instagram think?
Oh, Jesus.
All of that stuff, right? So somewhere along the way, we become very conditioned to give more of a shit about what other people think we're supposed to be doing instead of what we really want to do.
Yeah.
Wow. So I think about it at the end of the day. I remember one saying like we stress so much about other people's opinions, other people's evaluations, and yet they probably care zero fucks about what we're doing and spend so little energy evaluating us. They may pass judgment. They may think what we're doing is crazy, but honestly, the amount of time and energy they put into that is so small. And yet we treat it as though it's the end of the world, right? If my friends don't agree. And let's talk about family for a second. Like family is great. I love family. I'm not trying to diss family, but family, when you're developing a dream, when you're trying to dream about the future, often you got to be real careful about going to family and even some friends. And the reason that I say that is because friends and family want to protect us. And so often they'll rain on our parade because they don't want us to take a risk and get hurt. The other times is your dreaming, you start dreaming of a better tomorrow, you start taking active steps, you will make everybody around you who has settled for mediocrity and settled for status quo, you will make them uncomfortable, and they're going to start to want to pull you back down, right? Because the very fact that you're rising reveals that they're not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But and I've said this before in the show, but if you knew how little other people actually think about you, you wouldn't care.
Oh, it is so true.
But you wouldn't care. But I do think it's a good point. Like when we're talking about the fear of what other people think, I think start small. Just like do it for yourself. Write it down for it's not for approval. It's not for the world. It's for you. And if that is a fear or something that's kind of keeping you back a little bit, keep it for yourself until you feel a little bit more solid in your belief around it.
You don't have to share everything.
Yeah,
you don't have to share everything.
Or surround yourself with people that are going to encourage your dreams, that are going to actually, instead of throwing water on that fire, they're going to throw gas on it, right? They're going to encourage you and push you forward. And so that's not always going to be family and your immediate circle of friends. Hopefully you've got in your immediate circle of friends people like that. I think another thing that holds people back big time is the lack of belief they have in themselves. How can they believe that tomorrow will be any better when they have such a low opinion of themselves? Agree or disagree?
Oh, 100%.
100%.
In fact, you talk about people that have achieved their vision. One of the things that you will often hear is that they had to go through that when they first crafted that, when they first wrote that down, when they first, kind of came up with the idea. That's exactly what they did, is they looked and went, not me. Like, this is somebody else could have achieved this, or somebody else could do this, but not me. And they have to overcome that initial doubt in self. It ties into what's one of the most common things we hear from leaders, business owners, right? It's the
I'm not enough.
I'm not enough, and I'm the imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
If only
Big
people
time.
knew the real me. So there's a lack of belief. Absolutely, I think it affects more than anything else. It would affect how people live out their vision.
I mean, I lived for so many years. I lived with a deep belief in the human spirit, a deep belief in possibility for everybody else. And yet for me, I didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
Right. I described the deep self-loathing that I lived with for so many years. And so for me, I really came to believe that my journey, my burden is to carry this and that I'm going to help others, but to even believe that I could have a life that is I designed and that is meaningful to me and that makes me happy. There was zero belief that that was even within the realm of possibility. And so it's like the beginning of vision. You have to actually believe that you're worthy of it, that you deserve it, that each of us have been placed on this planet, right, to live our best life, to achieve our full potential, and anything less is like throwing potential away.
Yeah, and it's okay for the people who are like me who get stuck in the how. Like, I don't know, if you want to go to the moon and that's like a really big, like I want to travel to space. I'm just throwing one out there that's really out there, but
literally really out
like
there.
What a lot of people will do and why they cut their dreams so quickly is they move into, well, that's not possible. How could that ever happen? There's a million ways that might happen.
Right.
So let go of figuring it all out, but just start getting comfortable even with your dream, with that big vision.
Yeah.
Sit with it for a while.
When Kennedy declared in the States, when he declared by the end of the decade we will put a man on the moon.
Yeah.
There was something in the neighborhood of about 1 million things that needed to be done.
Buckminster Fuller, right?
Yep.
Bucky, who designed the critical path.
Critical path. And he says that about 700,000 of them hadn't even been invented. They hadn't been done.
Yeah.
So the idea of putting a man on the moon was beyond impossible.
Yes.
In that
Love it.
moment.
And
yet they still set that tone and they said, okay, now we're going to start to create the path to do that.
So powerful.
I think we spend a lot of time thinking about all the things that could go wrong instead of all of the things that could go right, or all of the things that we're not instead of all of the things that we are. Our thoughts tend to gravitate more to.
Yeah, we're obsessed with what if it doesn't work?
Well, what if it doesn't work? What does everyone else think?
What if we started
Right?
asking, but what if it does?
Yeah.
What if it did, right?
Yeah.
What is the possibility that is awaiting me if I'll just take even those small steps you mentioned?
Absolutely. I think in closing, can we do like a rapid fire? I'd love to know sort of in one sentence, can you kind of pull together the power of personal vision? Anyone want to take it?
Yeah, for me, it's the phrase, it's where you stop waiting for life to give you what you hope you'll have, and you start creating the life that you've been destined to live all along.
I love that.
Stop waiting, start creating. That's mine.
Yeah, for me, it would be you are the author of your vision, and don't let someone else write it for you.
Oh, love it.
I love that.
I would say for mine, a personal vision would be like a flashlight that you're holding in your hand to help you guide yourself down the roads. Sometimes they're dark, sometimes they're open, sometimes they're bright, but helping guide you down that to be able to fulfill your dreams.
Light in the darkness.
Light in the darkness. Yeah. For me, it's just possibility. I think it's a word. It's like anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Wow. Powerful.
Excellent.
What a great conversation today.
Awesome.
Guys.
Hey, listen, I know you're going to wrap up here in a second, but I do want to put a challenge out to everyone. And I would say...
look, did you see how you just took over there? That was good, Rob.
Are we going to the moon?
Here's the challenge. And I know we ask you all the time to like, share, subscribe.
Yeah.
Whether you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, take a second and jump over to the YouTube channel. If we get 500 likes on the YouTube channel for this episode, I'm going to interview Mr. Timber in an upcoming episode.
Well, I'll have to dig him up from my memories. But challenge accepted.
I love it. Thanks, Rob.
And all I would say is, I mentioned this 15-day life vision challenge earlier. That is currently in development. We're really excited about how it's coming together already, and I think it's going to be a powerful tool. If you want to be among the first to know when this thing is available, when you can start to use it to map out your best life, we want you to email us today at info@livingrichley.me and include the word 15-day challenge in either the subject line or the body, and we'll make sure you're added to the list.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. It was a great conversation on the power of vision. As we said, like, share, and subscribe. You can find us across all socials. You can also check out our website at livingrichley.me, where you can get the show notes from today and access all of our other episodes. So until then, continue living your best life.